BRICS propagandists. Silence on Western whitewashing of slavery, crimes of colonial era and terror sympathizing in the name of BRICS. The West is denying slavery and colonial crimes, just like China denies the spread of coronavirus pandemic. And BRICS social media content creators will assist both of them in establishing this narrative. Since the past year, systematic efforts are being made to set the stage for whitewashing slavery and colonial crimes of the West. While the mainstream media remains silent on this topic, Western social media influencers began by testing the waters with statements like, colonization benefited the colonies and the Western colonials developed infrastructure and civilized the colonies. Citizens of the global South countries chose to ignore it consciously. Not because of inability to respond, but because this has been going on for decades, centuries and millennia. A couple more weeks and months doesn't make much difference to us anymore. On a few occasions, President Putin also called out the Western colonial crimes and how they were responsible for plundering and looting the Indian subcontinent and the entire African continent. The West began its colonial policy back in the Middle Ages and then followed the slave trade, the genocide of Indian tribes in America, the plunder of India, of Africa, the wars of England and France against China. What they did was hooking entire nations on drugs, deliberately exterminate entire ethnic groups, said Putin in the St. George's Hall at a Kremlin ceremony as per Reuters translation. President Putin categorically calling this out is an important point to remember, because this will help understanding how propaganda is operating in the name of BRICS on social media. Fake BRICS media. Origin story. Let's be clear about one thing. There is no official BRICS media. Mainstream media outlets registered in BRICS countries run stories which relate to their audiences. Some people on social media express their opinions and hope to mobilize subscribers from other BRICS countries. There is no restriction or conditions on who can be BRICS media and who cannot. In fact, a bulk of the BRICS analysis on social media is content created by Western citizens. Clueless, misleading and sermonizing content, but content nonetheless. The inflation in the West is at an all-time high, and the worst is yet to come. So people from the United States, European countries like Italy, France, and the United Kingdom, Nordic countries like Norway, etc., have become pro-BRICS and Global South content creators. Interestingly, many of these Western citizens started to gain legitimacy back in 2021, when they began supporting Russia a year before the Ukraine conflict started to intensify. Because it was 2021 and the effect of coronavirus was still being felt by the whole world, they consciously chose to avoid making pro-China statements. At the time, they did not make any negative statements against Brazil, India and South Africa. But look at how the tables have turned since 2023. Why fake BRICS will assist in cover-up of slavery and colonial crime. Recollect President Putin's statement mentioned above. In 2025, you have European citizens who gained legitimacy from their support of Russia starting in 2021, and now are upselling Chinese death traps to Africa, supporting terrorist activities against India, and spreading Elon Musk-propagated narratives against Brazil and South Africa. Ad hoc journalism for ad revenues on public display. Ideally, BRICS is a grouping of non-Western nations, but the so-called BRICS media has turned into a grouping of Western geopolitical experts espousing colonial-era worldviews. You will find 2 or 3 Western citizens coming together doing a podcast discussing BRICS and Global South. They will collectively repeat their 19th century worldview and unanimously agree with each other. Zero critical thinking abilities. A clueless Western mob in the live chat will praise these geopolitical experts, pat each other on the back for a job well done, and then expect citizens of BRICS and Global South countries to fall in line and tag along with their Western version of the universal truth. With more than 80% of the guests invited on BRICS social media channels being Western citizens, European values of hypocrisy and racism are being conveniently spread under the banner of BRICS. Do you think citizens from the United Kingdom, European Union and the United States will acknowledge the crimes on which the idea of a Western civilization was built? Colonial crimes and slavery, which began as a divine commandment to civilize pagans and heathens, metamorphosed into a full-time economic activity from the 16th century. The very same exploitative economic activity through which these modern Western developed countries were built. You don't need an expert analysis to answer this question, when common sense dictates that they cannot. How fake BRICS media promoting intellectual cover fire for terrorism is working against Russia. Fun fact: did you know that Europe is suffering a serious crisis of a demographic takeover due to their immigration policies? These illegal immigrants have easy accessibility to accommodation, food, clothing and more, including smart devices and internet access, sponsored with European taxpayer money. And online traffic from these illegal immigrants in Western countries generates more ad revenue than online traffic from citizens in BRICS and Global South countries. In my previous article, I outlined how citizens of BRICS countries are low-hanging fruits for social media content creators. Clicks, likes and subscriptions from Western countries not only help boost algorithms, but also generate more money. Negative reporting on India will generate positive views and likes from Western citizens, and rebuttal comments from Indians will also help increase engagement. Engagement farming at its finest. Inviting known terror sympathizers providing intellectual cover fire from the West, the same people who have worked hard to gain legitimacy by supporting Russia, will also help generate ad revenues through jihadi immigrant cliques based in the West. Hardly any of the BRICS content creators called out the terrorist state of Pakistan for the Pahalgam terrorist attack. President Putin and the Russian government were one of the first to condemn the terrorist attack, but these European propagandists operating with Russia gained legitimacy cannot condemn terrorism. Instead, some social media influencers even went to the length of inviting Chinese-origin American nationals to spread fake narratives against India in hopes to get into the good books of China. During Operation Sindoor, Indian and Russian weapons decimated the Chinese weapon systems used by the Pakistani army. The Chinese defense stocks tumbled, whereas the Indian and Russian defense stocks shot up in value. These Western social media influencers, who found legitimacy through pro-Russia statements, chose to underreport the performance of India-Russia weapon systems. Why? Because showcasing China and the Chinese weapon system in bad light might incur their wrath. Fake BRICS media has come full circle to display their European values of hypocrisy. Legitimacy earned from Russia is being squandered to gain favors from China. BRICS media coverage has turned into colonial-themed rants from old Western racists in their 60s and 70s. And in the pretext of being well-wishers of Global South, these Western influencers are selling death traps for engagement farming.